I was in the Marine Corps. They trained us very well for the combat theater, for what will go on in there. There was mental conditioning there. And what they couldn't and didn't train us for was what happens afterwards. What happens that night? What happens the next day when that person in your patrol is now missing? What happens a year from then or 5 years from then, when on Christmas you think about how their family's feeling? And so I, like many others, just bottled it up, and it didn't come out until many years later. And when it did, it was bad. Floodgates. And I was at the point of suicide. And I was going to make one more phone call because I didn't want to die, but I had the pain. I needed it to stop. And I've been through talk therapies at the VA. I still go to the VA, but EMDR was the one who got to the root so we could pull it out and look at it. My perception of what had happened was not necessarily what had happened, but it was what my brain had filed.
In terms of cost effectiveness and client cooperation and willingness or eagerness to be involved, EMDR is far superior on those two concerns, which are very important. And one that often gets lost is that with EMDR, the client is not required to talk about the nature of the event. And for so many veterans who've been through so much and done things that other people wouldn't understand were necessary in the situation, where they're concerned that they would be shamed or shunned.
There's plenty of time to have done this research. There's plenty of initiative. But if you look at the research, and that's what got me, now we're talking a good 10 plus years ago, I looked at it and said, it's there, it's solid. EMDR is effective.
In February of 2018, I got a phone call that would dramatically change the rest of my life. I received a phone call from my father telling me that my brother, retired corporal in the Marine Corps, had died by suicide at the VA building in Minneapolis. When you lose someone to suicide, particularly when it's a veteran who was diagnosed with PTSD, it changes the way that you see the bureaucracy and the government and the services that we provide for veterans and for active duty military members and for first responders.
Service members are having a difficult time. Look at the numbers, that's all I say. Look at the numbers, 22 a day? 22 a day, really? Mm-hmm. And the beat goes on, right? Just look around you. I'm sure somebody in your families or your family is impacted, and nobody's talking about it though. Now that's the worst sin.
And then in the last week of his life was admitted to the VA hospital, originally on a suicide watch. And what we know from a government report is that my brother kept asking the same question over and over again during his last days, which was, what is the plan? And he asked them that for 3 days. And on the 4th day, he discharged himself and got as far as the parking lot.
We have therapies. And I think at some point, if the field was really invested in working, we'd be able to look at these EMDR, CPTP, and we say, I think PA would work better for you, or EMDR for you, or, we'd be able to triage this more effectively. But a veteran will not get that in many VA settings, Minneapolis being one. They're not going to get the opportunity. That's why VRP exists, because that, ideally the VRP would become obsolete. The EM would be available in the VA and VA affiliated organizations, but it's not.
My VA psychiatrist recommends that I go through it again, actually. Fully endorses EMDR, but the VA Minneapolis only has one person trained in EMDR. So you have to go outside to find it. Is PTSD in the mind, but so often what's killing us and causing the suicide rate is what's in the soul and in the heart. Those things we just can't make sense of. And so we need this alternative therapy to help. I just want to thank VRP for just giving me the opportunity to respond so quickly when I was in crisis, and then to continuing to battle through, and now hopefully get some funding underneath them. And like I said, at our place, we would love to be able to refer vets to EMDR and VRP